Hi, this is Candy Clayton, and I am here today with Ethan Leeds, a good friend of mine, to talk about chronic illness and the underlying cause of it. And I've had an experience where I spent basically a month really sick and couldn't figure out why, and realized that, we've had a lot of planes flying overhead and a lot of toxicity being created from that. And I understand exome theory versus virus and germ theory. So after I spent a little bit of time thinking about it, I knew exactly what happened. And I was not taking care of my body properly. And Ethan and I were having a talk one day, and he wanted to tell me about some products that he was using and that he has helped a lot of people with. And it just immediately resonated. I knew exactly what I needed to do. So I wanted to introduce you to Ethan, let him tell you a little bit about himself and how he came into these products and how he's used them in his practice. So, Ethan, if you'd please introduce yourself.
Okay, hi. So yeah, for those that don't know me, my name is Ethan Leeds. I'm a holistic nutrition and detox specialist. I've been involved in natural health for over 30 years, originally training in kinesiology, then later NLP, and then finally got much more involved in nutrition after four of my family members all were diagnosed with cancer over a 12-month period. In my case of my wife, who's one of the four, I immediately got her to sack the doctors and created a protocol aimed at the cause rather than the symptoms, which is what conventional doctors normally attack. They're big on fighting symptoms, not so good on understanding or dealing with cause. Anyway, she was cancer free inside 6 months. Since then, I've helped a lot of people, originally for years with cancer. I've had thousands and thousands of people that wanted help with that. And then Lyme and fibro and autism and other stuff after that. So I've been helping people for quite a few years. And one of the one of the approaches that is very different from when you come from a holistic point of view to a conventional medicine point of view is that, as already briefly touched on, is that we seek to address the cause rather than just dampen and suppress symptoms. Symptoms are there as a warning shot, if you like. It's your body crying out, saying, "Hey, I've got a problem." And doctors tend to treat it. If you think of it like an oil light in your car, the doctor's approach is to take the bulb out or to cover the bulb in some black tape or something like that to get rid of that nasty symptom. Um, but most of us know that that's not a good approach, because you're going to have a problem down the road when your car stops, right? When your engine explodes or whatever. But that's what they do with our bodies, and a lot of people are happy as long as the symptoms go, because the symptoms are what are unpleasant. It's pain, or it's you can't sleep, or it's mood imbalances, or whatever. They're all unpleasant, and so a lot of the time, we've been brought up into society something quick action. And if we can just stop that pain, a lot of people don't care about anything else. If the pain is gone, I don't care. But if the pain was a warning that something is really wrong and you haven't dealt with that, you're just storing up trouble for yourself. So the question becomes, what is the cause? And the answer is surprisingly easy and well understood and well known, but hidden. It's suppressed. So effectively, the cause of all chronic disease comes down to two things. It's often both of them, and at least one of them, and it's toxicity and deficiency. Okay, these are the two platforms of chronic disease. And what conventional big pharma led medicine likes to do is they like to not look for cause. That's bad enough. But worse than that is they like to blame the wrong things. They're constantly blaming the wrong things so that we're fighting the wrong things. So they blame viruses, or they blame fat, or they blame cholesterol, or they blame any number of things except for the actual real cause. Okay, so in the case of smoking, there was lots of evidence that smoking caused lung cancer, and they denied it. The tobacco industry and the government and all the authorities denied that cigarettes caused lung cancer for the longest time. It was a real fight, which eventually was won in the courts, that eventually got them to agree that smoking caused lung cancer. But they've never extrapolated that in ways that the public see, where they admit that, well, actually, the cause of the lung cancer is smoking, but it's not smoking per se. It's the carcinogenic toxins in the cigarette that are going into the lungs. And the other forms of cancer are also being caused by carcinogenic toxins that are entering your body in a different way. So fluoride in water is a well-known carcinogen. So we're drinking that toxin that causes cancer. So there are many toxins that we're being exposed to that you can, even on Google, which is the worst search engine ever for a topic like this, but even on Google, if you Google known carcinogens, you'll get a great big list. And if you start working through that list and finding out, because there'll be chemicals that you don't know for the most part, but if you start going through those chemicals, well, where are these chemicals? What you'll find is they're in your food, they're in your water, they're part of your clothes, and so on and so on. They're everywhere, in other words. They're in your deodorants, they're in your makeup, they're in your lipstick, etc., etc. So we are being bombarded with carcinogenic toxins. So I'm just talking cancer here, but that applies to all the other chronic diseases. So we're being bombarded. And when you go to your doctor and you've got breast cancer, let's say, that they never discuss carcinogens. They never discuss, for example, the deodorants that you're using right under your arm, right next to your breast, and what heavy metals might be in that deodorant. They never talk about that. They might talk about genes, maybe, which are not the cause of cancer. That you might have a genetic predisposition, which is a different thing, but they're not the cause of cancer. So they don't talk about those things. They usually don't talk about cause at all. And one of the reasons they don't talk about cause is because it's caused by carcinogenic toxins, and they're going to treat you with carcinogenic toxins. So chemo and radiation. I mean, everyone knows radiation causes cancer, but there seems to be a cognitive dissonance when they say we're going to treat you with this radiation for your cancer. Hang on a minute, doesn't radiation cause cancer? Yes, that doesn't kind of make sense. But we get switched off our thinking because we're taught trust our doctor. If you got if you've got a problem, you just ask your doctor; he will tell you. So we're trained that all our lives through the government-led education, which it isn't really in our best interest. So the cause then of cancer is carcinogenic toxins. The cause of all our chronic diseases are different toxins. And then alongside of the toxins, one of the problems when you become toxic is that you also, am I hearing a feedback or something, or is it just my end?
I'm not hearing anything.
All right, just me. So when you become toxic, your body, you start to not be able to metabolize nutrients correctly because the toxins do damage to the cell membrane, for example, to the gut lining and different things, and it inhibits your body's ability to absorb nutrients. So
Right. They take place of the nutrients. Like
in some
they're
cases,
filling your
you
cells.
compete. Right. So in the
Yeah.
case of thyroid issues, so that's a good point. So in the case of thyroid issues, one of the toxins would be fluoride, and
Bromine.
yeah,
Hmm.
and so on. And what they do is they compete in the receptor cells in the thyroid, so that they go into the receptor cell and block the actual iodine, for example. Or in the so here's one. So people are being told to supplement with synthetic hormone D, and they're being told it's a vitamin and that they're deficient in it, none of which is true. But so they supplement with D3, synthetic, and what this does is it competes with the active D in your body. So the D in your body can't get into its receptor cells because you're supplementing with all this D, which is going into the receptor cells and blocking your active D. And then what happens is your active D has to go somewhere. Where does it go? Thyroid. It competes with T3, right? So it pushes the T3 out of your thyroid. And so it's all part of the poisoning. So they're poisoning us so many different ways. So yeah, so one of the things that toxins do is compete directly. Various heavy metals and different toxins compete with the receptor sites of the nutrients that you use. So that just blocks it being used. Then it also blocks it being absorbed. And there's a whole different range of ways. But the bottom line is that you become deficient when you're toxic. And usually, if you're not toxic, you're already deficient because the nutrients are not in our food any longer. So our food is already nutrient deficient. And then when you add to that toxins, and one of the reasons our food is deficient, the one that most people know is that our soil is deficient. But what people often don't realise is that in the same way that becoming toxic inhibits your body's ability to metabolize nutrients, when you spraying the plants with all these pesticides and herbicides, that inhibits the plant's ability to absorb nutrients from the soil. So the soil, you've got a double whammy. You've got already not enough nutrients in the soil, and then you're also inhibiting the plant's ability to use those nutrients. And then we have the same thing going on in our body. We're not getting enough nutrients because our food is deficient, and then we have the toxins inhibiting our body's ability to utilize those nutrients. So you've got these two problems.
It's a perfect storm.
It's a perfect storm. And nutritional deficiencies on their own create disease. Most people are aware that, for example, scurvy is the result of a deficiency in C, and rickets is the result of a deficiency in D, which should come from sunshine. Nearly all D should, 90% of it at least. So D should come from sunshine, and if you are really deficient, then you get the disease rickets. So you don't need toxins to exhibit disease state, right? But if you've got toxins as well, like you say, perfect storm. So what we need to do to help our health is a few simple things. So step number one is we need to avoid the toxins that we can avoid from even entering our body. And how we do that is we make simple choices to switch toxic products and toxic things for non-toxic versions or less toxic versions. So for example, we can switch our personal hygiene soaps and makeups and skin creams and all of that for non-toxic versions. There are non-toxic versions out there. Sometimes they're even cheaper. So it's not always a money thing. Sometimes they are cheaper. In some cases, we can make some of our own personal household cleaners and things from essential oils, and one of the things you can do with essential oils is use them to make various household cleaners and various healing products. So that's the first thing, to switch toxic for non-toxic. We can start drinking pure water instead of toxic water from the tap. We can start getting more organic, which isn't necessarily properly organic as we would like, but it's less toxic than the non-organic versions by a considerable way in most cases. So we can make decisions to reduce the toxins. We can
throw away those Teflon pans that you're cooking with.
Right, Teflon. So all the non-stick pans. So we can switch for the stainless steel pans. Is probably the unless you're spending a lot of money, stainless steel is the most convenient way to get the least toxic pans possible. So the all of the Teflon and non-stick things, they're all toxic. Cast iron is okay, but stainless steel is the main one. So we can make switches. It's about learning what's not toxic and then switching to those things. The second thing that we can do is we can help our body. Thank you, just had a coffee. So we can help our body. Coffee's great, by the way. Don't believe all the hype. Well,
I'm a fan.
If it's organic and if it's not got bad stuff put into it. Once we've taken that first step, the second step then is to help our body remove the toxins faster than it otherwise is, because normally what should have happened and used to happen for thousands and thousands of years is your body is detoxing naturally. So as toxins come in, they go out and we stay non-toxic, and that all works fine. But now it doesn't. It no longer works because the level of toxins coming in is more than our body can cope with. And that's why we've got epidemics of chronic disease now, because everyone's toxic. And then the toxins, depending on what toxins, where the toxins are, your genetic predispositions and so on, you'll have different problems. So one person will have cancer, another person will get Parkinson's or autism or whatever. It also depends how they get in you. If they're injected into you straight into your blood, that's much worse than if they're in your food and you eat them, because you have defenses to your body has defenses to reduce the toxic effect of eating toxins, for example, or from going even into your skin. So we need to help our body to remove the toxins, and so because of that, there's a lot of popularity around detox. Everyone's like, oh, we've got to do a detox, we've got to remove those toxins. The problem with detox is that a lot of detoxes do us more damage than good, and a lot of people get very sick doing a detox. So it's not just as simple as taking some things that cause your body to release toxins. So for example, one of those things would be niacin, which is a B vitamin. And if you take high dose niacin, your body will dump a lot of toxins into you and you will get very sick unless you get those toxins out. So if you're going to do a niacin flush, you want to link that with a good sauna and be sweating those toxins out at the same time. You need to know what you're doing.
And you may feel like you're dying.
Yeah, well,
a niacin flush will make you feel like you're dying.
you can, and you actually can die. If you detox too strong, you can literally die of detox. But you can certainly feel like you're dying. So what are the symptoms of detox? The symptoms are flu, right? So mild detox symptoms are a cold. Strong detox symptoms are flu, right? But then they blame a virus. No, flu is a detox. Okay, so that's what causes flu, and we can detox in sync.
But detox is also prevention of the flu. If you keep your body clean and free of toxins, you will never get sick.
Well, yeah. So flu symptoms are a detox that's too strong. You don't want to be detoxing at that strength. But sometimes, if you're not detoxing correctly and enough, every now and again your body's going to do a dump. It's going to dump all those toxins, and you're going to get flu. And people can sync. So if you get in the presence of someone else who's detoxing, there's way that we actually communicate in ways that people don't understand through frequency. And that someone else, if you get in the presence of someone else, they can trigger you to do a detox. So it really is true that if you meet someone and you've got heavy loaded toxins, you could have a detox triggered by somebody else going through a detox. I don't want to get into that because it's a whole big subject in of itself. But yeah, so flu is detox. I can cause someone to have flu symptoms easy. One of the ways would be niacin. Give somebody high dose niacin and don't do anything to get rid of the toxins. You're going to have flu. But they don't call it flu because they want to blame virus on flu, so they call it flu-like symptoms. There's no differentiation. It's exactly the same, except you caused it by niacin, so we can't call it flu because flu is caused by a virus, isn't it? So anyway, what we then need to do is we need to speed up that detox in a safe way. That's the key. So we want to do it as fast as possible while being safe. If you're doing it faster than your body can remove the toxins, then you're going to damage your body. That's not good. So there's a few things that I recommend people do. So the first is water. So water is the prime flush of all our detox pathways. Okay, so whether we're talking about respiration, perspiration, bowel movement, urine, whatever, all of them are based on water. Okay, so the more water within limits, you can have too much of anything, including water, but the more hydrated you are, the better it's going to be for your body's purposes in detox. So especially if you're doing a specific purposeful detox, having enough water is an important part of it, so that it's going to help you to have good bowel movement, peeing enough, sweating enough, and all the other things. You breathe out toxins. Even your tears and your earwax and all of that and your hair is all part of detox. Your body gets rid of detox all those ways. I can see you.
Yeah, and let's talk about the proper quantity of water, because some people having 2 glasses of water a day is a really big deal. They'd be like, yeah, I had my water today. I
Right.
had 16 ounces and
Well,
they weigh 200 pounds.
right. So this is a little bit of controversial and differences of opinion on what exactly is the right amount of water. But before I get to the right amount, I like to talk about what's the best water. Because there's a lot of hype about alkaline water and alkaline in general, and it's not backed up by good science at all. So listen, the most important thing you want from water is that it doesn't poison you. That's your starting point. I don't want my water or my food to poison me. So the first thing you want in water is purity. Okay, that's just common sense, right? Let's not have fluoride in it. Let's not have chlorine in it. Let's not have xenoestrogens in it and what have you. Let's not have any of this stuff in my water. So the purest water that you can create from whatever water source that you've got, which is contaminated to a greater or lesser extent, the purest water that you can create is distilled water. So I never recommend anybody buys distilled water because distilled water is typically sold in a plastic bottle. All water will pull toxins from the plastic petrochemicals, and distilled water is the best water for pulling toxins out. So if you buy distilled water in a plastic bottle, then you're going to have the most toxic water, depending on how long it's been in there, that you can have. So don't ever buy distilled water. Instead, you want to get a home distiller. For most people, one that does 4 liters at a time is enough for most people. Some people need bigger ones if they've got big families and stuff. And you distill your water. Now, what that means is that that's going to be the purest water you can get, purer than any other water. The next best after that would probably be RO, reverse osmosis, would be second best after distilled. So that's removed everything. Now, the problem that some people have been sold with distilled water is it's got no minerals in it. So is that true? Yes, it's true. It has no minerals in it. Is that bad? No, that's not bad. That's great. Okay?
That's not where we're supposed to get our minerals from.
It's not where we're supposed to get it. So humans do not do well eating rocks and metals for their nutrient sources. Now, if you go to conventional thinking, they don't differentiate. So when they want to fortify your cornflakes with iron, they'll just put iron filings in your cornflakes. And you can literally get a packet of cornflakes, and there's lots of YouTube videos where you can watch.
There are.
Where they pull the iron filings out of the cornflakes on a magnet. Okay, they don't make any differentiation between elemental minerals, which is in its inorganic state, and organic minerals, which is a mineral that's been through a plant and maybe got to an animal, either a plant or an animal. But it starts in a plant where the plant changes it into an organic form, bonds it with carbon. So we're carbon creatures. So once it's gone through a plant, it will be bonded with carbon. Now it's organic. Now we can absorb 100% of it if we're healthy. Obviously, if you have digestive issues, maybe not. But theoretically, you can absorb 100%. Whereas most inorganic minerals, you're absorbing 5%. And that's why a lot of supplements say chelated. So what chelated means is we are selling you an inorganic mineral that your body doesn't want, but don't worry, because we're going to trick your body into thinking it's organic by wrapping it in a protein, an amino acid, and then your body will think it's organic, and that will improve the absorption from maybe 5% to maybe 40%. We're here. So, okay, but I don't want an inorganic mineral being absorbed that my body doesn't want. And that still leaves 60%. And if it's not chelated, it leaves 95%. So what happens to all that mineral that your body couldn't utilize? Well, what happens is that's treated as a toxin. Your body has to get rid of it because it can't use it. So it has to get rid of it. So now that's going to massively reduce the amount of other toxins your body can reduce, because now you've got this supplement that you've took with all this undigestible, unmetabolized nutrient, iron or calcium or whatever. And so now your body has to excrete it, and if it can't excrete it, it's going to have to store it somewhere. So it starts storing it. So you start getting, literally, calcium, for example, will start to be stored around your joints, and your joints start to seize up and literally get turned to stone, or they get into your arterial walls, and you get calcium buildup, or you get kidney stones, and all kinds of crap because people are eating rocks. So the rocks in water are just the same. The difference is it's a small amount, and your body can cope with that. But if you supplement at higher levels, now your body is too much. Like 250 milligrams of calcium rock is too much for your body. But if it's in water, your body can deal with it, but better not to be there. Better not to be there in the first place. So some people think, get your distilled water and now put some rocks into it because that makes it living water, or somehow putting dirt in the water makes it healthy. No, no, pure water.
Hey, I threw crystals in there. Is that rocks?
No, it's not. No, that's different. So you're doing that for energy purposes, right? It's not going to leave. You're not going to be drinking those crystals. That's big crystals you're putting, right?
Yeah.
So there's arguments for that. But anyway, so pure water is how all nature's water is given to us. All the water we get in nature is distilled, and then it gets contaminated to a greater or lesser extent depending on what happens to it when it lands. And now, unfortunately, it's getting contaminated in the air because they're spraying us with stuff. So the rain is now no longer pure. It's coming down already. That's where we get the expression acid rain. So it should be pure in a proper world, but they're poisoning everything. So distilled water then is or water. It doesn't have to be distilled. That's my preference. The purer the water, the better the job it's going to do flushing toxins. So,
Distilled is the only pure H2O.
yes.
That is the purest H2O there is on the planet.
It is the purest H2O, but RO gets close depending on the system and how well it's maintained. RO can get near to distilled. But typically the filters, as they get older, they don't do such a good job and they're not cleaned sufficiently and different stuff, so it does drop. Whereas distillation is always as good every time. RO drops, but even at the best quality, it doesn't get as pure as distilled. But then it drops. And distilled water has a negative charge as well, which is another thing, which really helps with pulling toxins and what have you. So distilled water. Now, quantity, you mentioned that. So there are many people who drink enormous amounts of distilled water and they can get the best results. And I'm talking about like a gallon a day or even more, up to 6 liters. That's a lot of water. Now you have to be careful going any much beyond that, and you've got to make sure you're getting enough minerals to keep your electrolytes up.
Because there's a flushing effect.
Yeah. So you've got to be careful on that. So you want organic minerals. But there's some amazing results at that level. Well, not that many people can even drink that much.
No.
That's over the course of a day as well. You certainly don't. There are people that have died drinking kind of 6 liters back. I don't know if that amount, maybe a bit more, but quickly. You can't be drinking that amount over an hour or two. That's vastly too much. But over the course of a day, having a gallon or up to 6 liters. So as long as you're making sure that you're keeping your minerals up, and we'll come to minerals next after water. So pure water is the best. That's then giving you a flush. That's keeping your all your detox pathways as open as you can. There are some other parts to it. You could be hydrated and still have blocked detox pathways. It's not all water, but that's a significant part of it. Okay, so once we've got our water, the next thing that I use, or I get my clients to use it as well, is zeolite. Now, so zeolite is a mineral that your body doesn't need. So it goes into your body, there's no receptor site for it, so it doesn't stay there very long. On average, it leaves in 4 to 7 hours. Okay, so depending on various factors, mainly how much you drink, because it goes out in the urine. So zeolite then is a very interesting mineral because it's a toxin magnet. So it has a strong negative charge, and it attracts toxins with a positive charge, which is the vast majority of toxins. It grabs them and it traps them, and it bonds with them and it neutralizes them. So the moment that the zeolite grabs it, it's no longer toxic. Okay, so it's one of the reasons it's so cool, because a lot of methods of removing toxins, the toxin has to move through your body, and the whole way it's moving through your body, it's damaging you. It's hurting you, it's oxidizing you, and so on. Whereas so zeolite will grab it and move it through your body in a non-toxic form, so it's not hurting you, which makes zeolite much more gentle. A second part of why it's so great is that a lot of methods of chelation and binders and so on, they're not targeted. So if you, for example, take charcoal, activated charcoal, which I really like, but activated charcoal will take good and bad. It's not, it doesn't discriminate. Okay, so if you've just had food poisoning, then great, take your activated charcoal. It's going to really help you, but it's going to take good stuff as well. But in some situations, you don't care about that. You're dealing with an acute problem. But in general, it's obviously much better to not take your good things, to not take your minerals, your magnesium, your calcium, and all the minerals that you want that are organic. You don't want to be stealing them. So zeolite won't do that. It's just going to take the bad stuff, and it takes a massive range of bad stuff. So it takes herbicides, it takes pesticides, it takes heavy metals like mercury and aluminum and so on. It even takes radiation. Now, more recently, some things have come out because of stuff currently going on. It will take out graphene oxide, and it will take out spike proteins. Okay, so among other things. So zeolite is used heavily for dealing with toxins, not just in health, but governments around the world use it to clean up toxic messes, such as Chernobyl. So Chernobyl, they used hundreds of thousands of tons of zeolite to absorb the radiation there. They use it
Is that right? I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah. So they use it in sewage works. They use it in industry. It's used in farming practices with livestock because they put it in the feed. It reduces their medical needs, and that they can use less antibiotics and stuff. So it's used extensively. Now, there's different types of zeolite. One of the things that you need to make sure when you're doing zeolite, because zeolite's a toxin magnet, if it's not cleaned before if they sell zeolite not cleaned, it's going to have a lot of toxins in it. Now it's not going to release those toxins in you, but it's going to mean that it's not got space to take more toxins, so it makes it weak and useless. So you don't want your zeolite to be contaminated. You want clean zeolite. So that's one thing. The second thing is because of the way zeolite works, it works by surface area. It's like a magnet. And the smaller the surface area, the more powerful it is because it has more area. So to give an analogy, if you've got a beach ball floating on a swimming pool, it's taking up a little bit of surface area on that pool, right? Now, if inside the beach ball it's full of those polystyrene beads they put in bean bags, and you cut the beach ball open and let those out, right? Those polystyrene beads, they're going to cover a huge area of the pond. They were taking up the same space in the beach ball, but now they're covering a massive, because they have a smaller surface area. Now, if each of those beads was full of olive oil, and then you burst them and then olive oil came out, the oil would go even further and probably cover the entire pool, right? So the smaller it is, the bigger the surface area. So the smaller the zeolite particles, the more powerful it is. So, and the second point of size is the smaller it is, when it gets down to nano size, it can get to places that otherwise the zeolite wouldn't be able to get. So one of the problems with the toxins we're being faced with today is that many of them are nano. And basically, the size means it can get to places it shouldn't have got to. It can get past the brain-blood barrier, for example. It can get into the blood and get everywhere. So now we need to have a nano solution for a nano problem. So nano zeolite is small enough to get to all the places that the nanotoxins are getting, and grab them and get them out of our body. And so one of the main zeolites that I recommend is a nano zeolite. It's a clean, independent lab reported clean zeolite that's nano sized. It's 100% absorbed into the blood. And that means it goes everywhere that the blood goes, which includes the brain, includes all the organs, and obviously the blood itself, because a lot of people's blood is very toxic, especially if they've had certain medical things happen to them. Then the blood can be a real mess. So it's going to clean up the blood, and it's going to clean up the brain, and it's going to clean up the lungs and the heart and the kidneys. And it takes a lot of pressure off the kidneys, actually, because the toxins now are being neutralized before they get to the kidneys. So it makes life easier for the kidneys.
Does
So
this begin to happen immediately, or does it take some time?
immediately. So it only lasts 6 hours in your body, and when it leaves, it's going to be carrying a toxic load. So the first 6 hours or so, it's already removed a ton of toxins. Now that doesn't mean you'll feel it, because most of us don't feel toxins going in or out, right? So toxins come in every day, and we have a shower, and if we haven't got a good filter, we've just filled our body with a lot of toxins. But we don't feel bad after a shower, typically. We go swimming in a swimming pool with all that chlorine and other crap. Most people don't feel bad. Now, some very toxic people will feel that if they have a
Right.
swimming pool. They'll feel it because their levels are already so high that a little bit more is too much. But most people don't feel toxins coming in, and most people don't feel toxins going out. But what will happen is, gradually as the toxins go in, eventually you start getting symptoms. And that's when people feel it. So it could be 10 years, 15 years of building up, and then boom, you get a symptom. Maybe a small symptom, maybe like they can't sleep very well anymore, or maybe a pain. They're like, oh, I've got this lower back pain all of a sudden, or whatever it may be. Or maybe they'll be unlucky and it'll be a strong symptom like a heart attack or something like that. But that's when they notice it, when they get a symptom. Now, when you start removing toxins, same thing exactly. You don't feel it, most people, some people do, but most people don't feel it on a day-by-day basis until they get down to a point where they lose a symptom. And then they're like, oh, that pain has gone, or oh, I'm sleeping better, oh, I've got more energy, my brain fog has gone, or whatever it might be. So we tend to only see when we get or we lose symptoms. And that can take time depending on where you are on that path, going up or coming down. So it depends. So some people see really quick results because symptoms disappear really fast, and some people it takes longer. But it works on 100% of people. It can't not work. It's like if you have a magnet and a box of iron filings, and I dip that magnet into the iron filings, will it sometimes work? Most of the time? All the time? Well, the answer is all the time. It's a magnet, and they're iron filings. It's just that's what magnets do. Well, zeolite's like that. It can't not work. It's a toxin magnet. Unless there's no toxins, it's going to pick them up, right? In everybody. And some people will feel that day one too, and some people won't feel it, but it's working on both of them. It can't not be working. It's a toxin magnet.
And I share an experience with you. So I got mine, I don't know, a week and a half ago, I guess, since I've been taking it. But I have a little 15-year-old Maltese, and she started doing like this weird like tremor thing, just
Okay.
really random, where her head would tremor, and I'm
You're
like,
talking
oh,
about a dog, right?
yeah, a Maltese poodle, yeah.
Okay.
And she's just 6 pounds, and her brother just passed, so I'm like hyper vigilant. And so I started giving it to her in her water. I just sprayed it in her water bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And I kid you not, the first day it was gone. It has not come back.
See that's the first time I'm hearing this story, but that's great. But I hear that a lot, and it's great when it happens that fast. Um,
Yeah.
I've seen a non-verbal autistic child speak his first words after one day. Now that's not normal, but it can happen depending on where they are and different stuff. But yeah, it works on everybody, and it works on animals. Dogs love it. I don't know. You want to try this, Candy? I don't know if I've told you this, but I've often seen people with dogs where they'll put two bowls of water down, one with the zeolite in it and one without. And the dogs, I don't know, it's got no taste, no smell, it's not visible, but they know, and they choose the water with the zeolite. So often it's uncanny, really weird. Don't know how they do it, but they do. So try that little
I
experiment.
will.
Um,
I will.
right.
And so, I'm guessing like everybody needs this, right? Because we are just so inundated with toxins.
I,
Do
I,
you know of anything better than zeolite just for managing toxin load?
well, the first thing is water. That's the first.
Water, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So
we
that's
covered that.
after water. Then I've never found anything better than zeolite. Now I'm a big fan of the niacin and sauna method of detox. So that's a great way of detoxing a lot of toxins in a short space of time. Um, you either need to purchase a quite expensive sauna or you need access to a sauna. If you've got access to a sauna, that's quite an inexpensive way. You need to know what you're doing because the niacin flush can be quite strong and it can be down. You know, you've got to do it right. So there's a Facebook group that talks about this with a friend of mine, Brett Bauer, who is an expert in this and will help anybody that wants to do that. It's not my area of expertise in that particular detox method, but I love that method. That's great. But zeolite works for everyone, even the people with the genetic problems, MTHFR, COMT, and all of these issues. It makes no difference. This is going to work on everyone because it has no biological activity in the body. It's not relying on your body doing anything other than blood flow and a bladder that works. As long as you can pee and as long as your blood is moving around your body, it's going to work. And by the way, there's a second zeolite, the one that I recommend, and we can put a link on underneath or whatever afterwards. But the one that I recommend is called Pure Body Extra. But there's a second zeolite called Pure Body. That's the one, Pure Body Extra.
Oops.
It's a spray, so you spray that under your tongue, and it's got no taste, and it goes straight through your mucous membrane into your blood. Now the other one, I don't know if you've got the other one. The other one is
Not yet.
the other one is called Pure Body. That's a dropper bottle, and that's a slightly larger. It's a bit too large to get into your blood. So instead, it goes to your digestive system, and that detoxes your digestive system because the one area that one doesn't get to is your digestive system because you have no blood there. Hopefully, hopefully you've got no blood there. So the Pure Body Extra, which you just showed, that goes everywhere except for the digestive system.
But
And
hold on, since I've started taking this, like my bowels are much better.
right. Well, yeah, yes, it often does improve bowel movement, but there's side effects because all toxins ultimately, even from your digestive system, go into your blood. But cleaning up your blood has a lot of side effects, and we're quite complex beings, and it's also possible some of it goes temporarily into digestive system if you spray it and drink or eat immediately afterwards. You might get some into your digestive system, which will then have to work its way out. But anyway, so that's the two zeolites. So there are other things that you can do for detox, but this is what I use, especially for people. I use this for everybody because everyone is toxic because that's just the nature of the world we're sadly living in. But this is particularly helpful for people that typically have challenges detoxing because their detox pathways are shut, because they've got MTHFR or whatever. This is still going to work. Now, the next thing besides zeolite is that I like to give herbal support to support the detox pathways. Okay, so even though that zeolite doesn't need that, if you can improve your detox pathways, then your body's going to detox better in general. So supporting the organs involved in detox, i.e. kidneys, liver, small and large intestines, gallbladder, pancreas, all of those organs is really, really helpful. A lot of people have struggles, their kidneys are struggling, or the pancreas, or whatever, that everything's not as it should be. So I like to use herbs that do that. There's various herbs, things like dandelion and milk thistle and different herbs. So I use a product, and I'll just talk a little bit about that now because it links in. So first of all, it's going to help with detox. It's going to support detox, but it does the second part of the problem. So the second part of the problem is, as I said at the beginning, is that we're deficient. Okay, so we need to make sure, because we're toxic, if for no other reason, and that's assuming we're eating a great diet. So, I'm just noticing that there are some chat messages. Does it help with Lyme disease? Yes, it does. I've had, Maggie, if you ask me, remind me, and I will send you a video of someone that I helped with Lyme with just these two products, and just these two products reversed the Lyme. Can't say that. I didn't say
Well,
that.
and I personally had Lyme disease, so I'm very familiar with it. And I do know without question that I got sick because of the environment, the way I was living. I knew nothing about toxins. I knew nothing about GMOs. I knew nothing about anything,
Right.
you know. And by the age of 47, my body had become completely overwhelmed.
Right, right. So I think there's a lot of misinformation about Lyme. I'm not personally a believer in the tick.
Actually, it was before 47. It was early 40s, but um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah,
Right.
you're right. There's a lot of things I see out there that are very unusual.
So I've had quite a few people completely reverse their Lyme, one of whom was just these two products. The others needed some extra help. One of the problems with Lyme is that a lot of people are in a different place on the journey, and some people are a lot worse and a lot more complications than others. The person that these two products though was non-functional and had it for a lot of years, and these two products turned it around 90%. They then added a few other layers in later. So I'll send you that, Maggie, but do remind me because I might forget. Um, so where were we? So we want to get all of our nutrients. So what this let me share my screen. For those of you with a big enough screen, you're going to be able to see the ingredients of this product. So for those of you that can see, that's the ingredients. So you've got 44 superfoods. They're organic. They're a much higher standard of organic than what you normally get as organic. I won't go into all of that, but they're very organic. Let me say that. They're grown in minerally rich soil, and they cover herbs, some of which are there to support the detox pathways and so on. They cover medical mushrooms. They cover fruits, veggies, and algae. So you've got a full spectrum of all the plants and algae in there, which means when you've got 44 different superfoods covering all that breadth, grown organically and in minerally rich soil, you end up with all of the minerals that the human body needs, which as far as we know is about 60. There may be some we haven't figured out yet, but around about 60. So there's around about 60 minerals in a bioavailable food state, so not rocks, not salts, not metals, food. So all the minerals, all the vitamins, even B12 because of the addition of the algae. So every vitamin, every mineral, probiotics, prebiotics, enzymes, and fiber. So this is a massive hit. Now, one scoop of this stuff is nutritionally the equivalent of about 33 servings of organic fruit and veg. Now, that is a lot. Very few people eating 33 servings of organic fruit and veg in a week,
No one.
let alone in a day, right? And if you did, it would probably cost you a small fortune if you were to get organic 33 servings of organic fruit and veg, let alone superfood versions. It would cost you a small fortune. So this is costing in the US around about $2 for that. So I don't know how much it would cost if you bought them and did it yourself, but I'm sure it wouldn't be less than 30. So it's unbelievably good value. And it tastes good as well, which is quite shocking. Oh, let me ask you, Candy, I'm not asking this question. So what did you think of the taste of it? I remember you asking me what it tasted like. What
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. I'm actually drinking it right now. It's like most other greens. You've got that earthy kind of grass flavor undertone, but I'm able to handle it with just water without,
right, I
like
have
it
it with
doesn't it
water as
doesn't
well.
gross me out by any means. I don't think it's bad at all.
So
I've
it's
had hundreds of things far worse.
right. Yeah, I find it, I wouldn't say pleasant, but it's not unpleasant. It's just like, yeah, that's fine. And I just
Yeah.
have it with water. It's got a slightly sweet taste. It's not bitter at all because there's a lot of fruit in there. as well. So it's got a slightly sweet taste. I have lots of kids that love it. So if kids can like it, it can't be that bad. But I do have the old person that says it's horrible. So not everybody likes it. Um, but
Right.
but on the whole, most people do. So I think I've left the ingredients up there long enough. I think people have had a chance to look at that. Or
And so let's talk about the reason that we want to add something like this. So what we're doing here is we are flushing toxins out of the cells, right?
right,
We're removing those. And so what we want to do now is because we are all so mineral deficient and
right,
we are starved and our cells are starved. And that's another reason we're seeing just a huge influx in diseases
right.
because we are nutritionally depleted. So what we want to do, we remove those toxins from the cells. Let's flood it with nutrition, like plant-based food nutrition that the body knows exactly what to do with it, and put it back in those cells and fill where those toxins were. So now we can slowly over time fully restore our body back to full health.
Right. So I will just give a little proviso there. So I'm a big fan of nutrients from animal foods as well. So there are some nutrients that are better sourced from animal products. For example, vitamin A is better from an animal product than a plant product. And iron is another example, better from an animal product than a plant product. This is the creme de la creme of plants. You can't do better than this. But I personally like people to add some animal, make sure they're eating some red meat. Liver is fantastic. Some people can't stand liver, and I get that. And actually, I've had liver that's disgusting. I think it depends how you cook it. If you don't do it right, livers can be unedible, in my opinion. But if it's done right, it's quite tasty. But some animal products in your diet will complement, especially if you've got iron issues, or you've got eye issues where because A is very good for the eyes, and you definitely adding some liver or certainly at least red meat, some steak, stuff like that is going to complement and work well with this. So I just put that out there. Not I'm not a believer in getting everything from plants. Plants are amazing, got lots of medical properties and lots of great stuff about plants, but we're omnivores, and there's certain
Well,
things.
and this is not a replacement of anything. It's a supplement. It's a
Right.
it's something to help nourish our bodies.
It is, and there's lots of medicinal value in some of those herbs, as I mentioned, for
Absolutely.
from the point
Yeah,
of view
absolutely.
of supporting the kidneys and liver and all of that. So you've got the nutrients, but then you've got medicinal properties that we don't necessarily understand. I mean, the pharmaceutical industry, what they do typically is that they find plants that have medicinal effects, and then they try and figure out what the active ingredient is, and then they make a synthetic version and patent it, and then they make a drug, that is the drug which they then use, and often they shelve the plant or even make the plant illegal in some cases, get rid of the plant and have our synthetic drug version of it. So but it originates in the plant. The plant has the medical stuff, we don't necessarily understand. We're trying to figure out, why does the plant have that effect. So and these are some of the plants that have been shown to have the most beneficial effects on the human body. And so I see phenomenal results with these. And so, and even if you're just a person that struggles to eat fruit and veggies or whatever, this is a great way of increasing that. And it's actually low carb as well. So even people with low carb diets can use this because it's very low carb, but you're getting all that goodness without the carbs. So that's something else worth mentioning. So one other thing I guess I should mention. So if there's people that want to try, let's talk about cost. Actually, let's talk about cost, because people are often like, well, okay, but how much is all of this? So of course, I'm talking live on the internet, so there could be people in many different countries. I personally am in Brazil. You are in the US, in Florida. Some people might be in
Yeah.
Canada, some people in the UK, and so on. So I'm gonna talk in US dollars just for ease. But so I already mentioned that the greens is for 30, one is 30 scoops, and one scoop 33 servings is just over $2. So you've already got a clue to the price. So, and the price does depend. You can buy bulk and get discounts and stuff. So I'm going to do the price for one, the most expensive way of doing it.
And people do buy this for prepping.
Oh yeah, I have
You can live on it.
so here's the greens. So that's the canister, and so you've got a scoop in there, and it's just a powder which I add to water. You can add it to a smoothie or whatever you want. So I have a lot of preppers buy this in bulk, and one of the ways of buying it, if you buy 5, you only pay for 4, so you get 1 free. And so a lot of preppers buy in 5 or 10 or 15 or something, and then they get 2 or 3 free canisters. So for those people that think there might be a shortage of food, and I think there's going to be a shortage of food, this is a great way of getting a lot of food in a way that you can store. And if you just, I don't know, you have a bag of rice and this, you could live a long time. So a lot of preppers are doing that. So the most expensive way of buying this, you're paying about $64 for this, which is just over $2 for a scoop, right? But you can obviously buy it cheaper ways. The zeolite is the same price. Okay. However, there is a very large discount available for first-time customers. That's only for the zeolite. Okay, so there's a special link that I will put underneath this video for that, and it's an 82% discount. Now, if you do that, you're going to pay $13.84 for the zeolite, which is actually at a loss to the company. The company are losing money shipping that to you for $13.84. It's amazing. I don't know how they do it. However, you will be agreeing to a monthly subscription. Well, you're not actually agreeing to it. You're agreeing to it in principle, but you can cancel it any time. But I'm just going to say that. So I've ordered stuff from companies before. Some are very easy to cancel subscriptions. Some make it a nightmare. Some it's almost impossible to cancel. You have to like contact your credit card or whatever. So I just want to say this company is a wonderful company that makes it super easy. A couple of clicks and you can cancel it yourself. Or if you don't want to do that, you can call the office and ask them to do it. They'll do it immediately, no questions asked. They're not going to try and persuade you to, do nothing. They'll just do what you say. It's very, very easy to cancel. So I'm going to put that link below, and that is going to let people try the zeolite. Now you can't. That isn't on the greens. It would need to be a different link, and that's not an offer available for the greens. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. So, all right, carry on. Well, what do you want to get?
Oh, so then if somebody wants to buy the greens, they can go back in and purchase those separately?
No, not the link. This is a special, only the zeolite link. So we'll need to put 2 links. We'll need to put 2 links, so they can get the greens as well. But yeah, this is an amazing. And by the way, this product, this zeolite, is recommended by many of the big names in natural health. It didn't used to be when I got started many years ago. They didn't know about it, but now they're knowing about it. So you're getting people like Dr. Tenpenny and Dr. Circus and Dr. Tom Cowan and Larry Cook of the Stop the Mandatory Vaccines, and Erin Elizabeth, the McCullers partner. Many of the big names recommend this stuff. It is the world's best. It's kick-ass. Everybody should be on it, in my opinion. So
there's another one that is widely well known, and it just never resonated with me. I just refused.
Right, so I'm happy to use the name. So there's another one. It's called TRS by a company called Cassiva. There are many thousands of testimonials, positive testimonials about it online. It is a zeolite. It does help a lot of people. How does it compare to this one? Well, there's a few problems with it. The first problem is it's much more expensive, more than twice the price. The second and more important problem for it is it's synthetic. And in general, I'm not a fan of putting synthetic things in my body. So I avoid synthetic where I can. The third problem is that all the studies, there are many studies on this on the zeolite used in the one I'm talking about, but all the studies that I'm recommending here, none are done on TRS. It doesn't have any safety studies. Anecdotally, there are lots of people that say it's harmed them. So it's given them kidney problems and stuff. I don't know if that's true. I can't. All I can say is people have taken it and had great results, and some people have taken it and they've had problems. The company tends to suppress and censor all the negative information. So if you happen to be in one of their groups where they talk about it, you will see nothing negative because they kick people out of the group the moment they tell you of a negative experience. So I don't like that. But I have to agree that I know lots of people that have had life-changing experiences with it as well. But here's the thing: I've never known anybody switch to Pure Body Extra and then go back to the TRS. I've had many, hundreds and hundreds of people switch, none go back. And it's not just because it's a lot cheaper; it's a better product, and that's why all the big names recommend this one and not the other one. So there you go. But if you're taking TRS and you love it, and you don't mind paying twice the price, fine, go for it. Personally, I wouldn't want to put the synthetic in my body, but there you go. It's good to have a choice.
Well, I want to thank you so much for just sharing. I know you're on Facebook streaming. This is going to go in my group, and just to help everybody understand the importance. And again, I absolutely knew after my, long cold that this was a missing piece. I know that. I'm a naturopath. I understand what the underlying cause of all illnesses are, regardless of what it is. So I'm really grateful that you introduced me to this, and I've added it to my family's lives. Even my little dog and my big golden retriever, I squirt it right in his mouth. He's like, "Mom, stop!"
Oh, that's interesting. Hold on, let me, because I don't have a dog, but I've had some dog people tell me they can't spray it in their mouth; they have to put it in their water bowl. And I've always thought that was weird. I'm thinking, well, I don't really understand because dogs often have their mouth hanging open, and I just don't know why you can't spray it. So I'm very curious. So you don't have any problem spraying it directly in his mouth?
So my little one, her mouth's very little, so I
Right.
don't, and she's old, she's 15. I'm not going to pry her mouth open to do that. My golden retriever, he'll let me do whatever I want to him. So I just
Oh,
lift
so,
up his lips and I spray his gums.
so maybe the difference between small dog owners and larger dog owners, maybe that's what
It
it is.
could be, it could be. And when they were younger, I would spray their mouth with like teeth spray and stuff all the time. But I just don't want to like be overly aggressive with her right now.
Right. Okay.
Especially where she's still kind of dealing with the trauma and loss of her brother.
Right. Okay. Got it. Okay. I've never asked anybody that, so that I'm interested to hear what the reason is. Like to me, it always just seemed just spray it in their mouth.
Just spray it right there. Yeah.
But yeah, I love dogs, but I'm a big dog lover. So when I think of a dog, I think of like a lab or a golden retriever or a German Shepherd or something of that kind of size.
Right. More the bigger dogs.
Of the little ones, so maybe that's what it is. Awesome. Okay, so that's fantastic. And unless anyone's got a really fast question to throw into the chat, then I think we're pretty much done, right? There's nothing, we've covered everything. Fantastic. That was fun, and I hope it's been helpful for people. And we will put links below. If you have any other questions, then don't hesitate to ask. If you're struggling with a chronic disease, be it Lyme or cancer or whatever else, then feel free to get in touch with Candy if you're seeing this on her page, or myself if it's on my page, wherever you are. Just get in touch, and we will give you some help.
Thank you, Ethan.
Okay, bye bye.